yeah, what is going on, guys? Welcome to Eagles Pregame Live. We are breaking down the top matchups to watch, the offense, the defense, everything you need to know about the Eagles matchup tonight against the Green Bay Packers. Quick introductions. First up, my man, right over there to my side, he is Ryan Reese of Philly Sports Alliance, the guy over at PSA. What's going on, Ryan?
Not much, man. I'm just been jonesing all day for this game. I always hate these late night games or Monday night games where you just have to wait that little bit extra to get to the Birds game. So I'm itching, man. I'm ready to go.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Also joining us from Edge of Philly Sports, EOPsports.com, he is James. What's going on, dude?
What's going on, brother? How you been, man?
I'm good, man. Just a rainy, lazy Sunday, but it's not about that gets thrown out the window now because it is just about game time. Let's talk briefly about some history here with the Green Bay Packers. Wait, we have a comment. We have Al in the house saying, "What's up, fellas? Go Birds!" Absolutely. Let's kind of go into some history with the Eagles and the Packers. Back in 2016, the Packers came to Lincoln Financial Field on a 4-game losing streak. The Packers at the time were 4-6. The Eagles were 5-5. And sure enough, not to kind of throw bad vibes out there, but Aaron Rodgers torched the Philadelphia Eagles, went 30 for 39, 2 touchdowns, a 116.7 passer rating in a 27-13 win for the Packers that revived their season. Aaron Rodgers in that game was not sacked once. Devontae Adams had 2 touchdowns. Question to Ryan and James to lead this one off. I will give one of you two, a free high five if you can name me the wide receiver on the Eagles who led the team in receptions that game. Does first one to get it gets it.
2016. Oh man, what
I'll give you
this what awful wide receivers did we have at the time?
He had 6 receptions for 82 yards in the loss. Who is that guy?
It's not Paul Turner, isn't it?
No, it's not Paul Turner. That's a great guess.
Okay. Well, I know Aguilar was benched that game, so it wasn't Aguilar.
Going once. Going
twice. I got nothing, dude.
I'm just gonna hit the buzzer. The answer is Dorial Green Beckham. Remember that dude?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I forgot about Dorial Green Beckham.
So what's important about that game is the Packers went on to upset the Dallas Cowboys, the number 1 seed Dallas Cowboys in 2016. And they made it all the way to the NFC Championship game. And here we are today, 2022. Packers are in Philadelphia with their back against the wall at 4-7, and basically a do-or-die matchup with the Eagles here in Week 12. You look at the history, the Packers lead the series 28-17. They have beaten the Eagles 6 of the last 8 games since 2007. And prior to that, the Packers lost to the Eagles 5 straight games between 2003 and 2006. I'm going to throw it to you, Ryan. What is your favorite Eagles versus Packers memory?
I mean, I know this is cheap, if you want to call it cheesy or what, but I mean, the 4th and 26 game, not only just that play, obviously, but everything that kind of happened afterwards, coming down to kick the tying field goal, and then, obviously the field goal to win it. I was in the stands. It was such a great moment. I still talk about that moment with my friends that we were down there with. In fact, a funny story. When we kicked the field goal to tie it, I guess I was like huddled down because, I was nervous and whatnot. I must have just jumped up and with the fist up in the air. I accidentally clocked one of my buddies I was sitting next to, got him right in the chin. He went down like a sack of potatoes, but we were half in the bag, so it didn't really matter. I picked him up. We started cheering. It was such a great moment. I'll never forget it. So I loved it.
Yeah. What about you, James? Before I get into my 4th and 26 story.
Yeah, it's there's not much to say about my favorite Eagle Packer game, but I gotta go with obviously it's 4th and 26 too, because basically the play that probably changed the game around was Brian Dawkins' interception with Brett Favre, and he was always that guy that throws interceptions late in the game, and I think that's what I took out of it is that if you get Brett Favre to throw an interception, you're probably going to win the game majority of the time.
Yeah, basically that like the memory of that game is like just stay alive because you knew Brett Favre was going to throw an interception at some point because he was so turnover heavy at that point of his career. That the gunslinger in him couldn't help himself, and Joe chimes in the Dawkins pick, and that game was the best. I was on vacation during that game. I remember this like it was yesterday, and I was in Universal Studios at our hotel at the hotel bar. And I remember when I think during that play, I just collapsed crying. I don't normally, so I'm weird when it comes to the Eagles. Like I internalize when I get really excited. Like when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I wasn't screaming and hugging. I was on the ground crying. That's just who I am, and that was one of my moments there that I remember so vividly. But let's jump into this game. Let's talk matchups. Let's talk Eagles offense versus Packers defense. Lead us off, James. What are some of your top matchups to watch in that area?
Well, I got a couple of them that are basically from last week, and I think the one thing I took out of the game, that fourth quarter, it was like Jalen Hurts was showing that he is an elite quarterback, and I think that's the one thing I could take out of it is that if Jalen Hurts has a better, I mean, the one thing I could take out of it too is that Hurts just will now let that team lose that game last week, and I think that's the one thing he wanted to do for this team especially, and I think that's the first thing I could take out of it. The second thing is just try to work around without Dallas Goedert for the next probably couple weeks before he comes back. So I think that's going to be a big factor how Cal Quintera and Jack Stoll try to be on that same field. And I think the one thing and the last thing I got to say is hopefully A.J. Brown is 100, hopefully 50-50 tonight, not just like even though he's dealing with an illness, hopefully he could be a little better than he was last week. But obviously that's my three keys to the game.
Love it. What about you, Ryan? Like, what's your take between the Eagles offense and the Packers to watch, matchups to watch?
Yeah, and I'll kind of piggyback off of that. Is Hurts definitely just went into that last drive and just was not going to be beaten. And he certainly did it a lot more with his legs, but that's the beauty of his game is he can do those things when he needs to. He doesn't always have to run the ball, and he clearly shows that he doesn't do that as much as he certainly used to. But when it came down to it, he clearly just needed to make some plays, and he did it, and he got the touchdown, and we won the game. So, I thought that was absolutely fantastic to see that him just take the game over and win it. I'm going to obviously be keying in on our run defense. I think the second half of last week, we really showed that, with the new additions, and this team certainly was able to minimize a really good running back in Jonathan Taylor. When that kid is on, there's nobody better, arguably. And the Packers come in with a nice two-headed monster in Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, two different style of runners. And, I'm going to be interesting to see, how they kind of do against each one. And obviously with Sue and Joseph in the mix, you had a great first game. I want to see continued, improvement in that aspect. The next thing I kind of want to see is, how is this offense going to continue to work? Because it wasn't the sharpest, obviously, without Dallas Goedert. It seemed like they were just saying, we'll throw Stoll and we'll throw Cal Quintera in, and we'll be fine. I don't believe that that's how they should move forward. I don't think those two tight ends can do even 25% of what Goddard can do. So why would you do the same, run the same plays with those guys? So I want to see them mix it up a little bit, utilize maybe some other players to kind of fill the void of Goddard. So those are really the two things that I really am focusing: one defense, one offense.
I love how rules don't apply to Ryan Reese. Just goes right into the Eagles defense. He always cheats. He always cheats when it comes to defense. I'm just throwing shit because he always calls me the cheater.
It's coming from you. Okay, let's wheel out and do that again.
Right.
All right. I think the Dallas Goedert thing is really interesting to watch in this one. His absence was sorely felt. They just threw so many personnel groupings in the first half against the Colts. 12 different groups of tight ends and wide receivers in the first half. 21 different personnel combinations on 31 plays. That's outrageous. They cut that significantly in thirds. Only 4 tight end wide receiver groupings in the second half against the Colts. I want to see this offense kind of get their head out of their ass and kind of know exactly what they're doing. For a team that has looked prepared, especially offensively, again and again and again, it's not like that. It's not been like that the last 2 weeks. And what I want to see from that is kind of what I'm leaning towards is a little less 12 personnel. I want to see more 4 wide receivers sets. I want to see a little more creativity on offense. Jack Stoll, Grant Calcaterra, they're not making up for Dallas Goedert. It's just not going to happen. You got to change up the scheme. You got to change up the playbook. I like how Ryan was kind of referring to, I think, about a little bit more Quez Watkins in the slot, a little more snaps, a little more targets to Quez, things like that. Get A.J. Brown in the slot. That would be really fun to watch because you've got a guy, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank for the Green Bay Packers. Their nickel defender. Oh, gosh. Who is it? I'm drawing a blank. It doesn't matter. It'll come to me during this show. But, like, that's a huge matchup to watch because A.J. Brown is obviously, like, a really tall, physical wide receiver. Get him in that middle area of the field where Hurts has been absolutely terrific. And then it comes down to the run game. You know, a lot of Eagles fans are going to be happy about this one. We'll see how it turns out. But the Packers' passing defense is actually very good. It's actually a very, very strong in the secondary. Where they're weak is in that run defense. So a lot of people that kind of are wanting Miles Sanders to have another game because he's struggled these last 2 weeks. Not necessarily struggled, but he hasn't been involved. This is the game to get him involved. So I'm really hoping to see like anywhere in that like 18 to 22 swing touches on the ground for Miles Sanders around 100 yards. That would be really nice. I want to see that efficient offense come back because that Dallas Goedert absence in the RPOs, short yardage, you just can't replace that. Let's try and see, and hopefully they have been preparing for this. See something new. That's what I'm looking for. Anybody else have any matchups to watch on offense? I've got a couple more.
It is, by the way, Darnell Savage, I believe, for your.
Thank you.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. He's like 5'11", like less than 200. Like doesn't have a chance against like an A.J. Brown if they're able to kind of expose that.
Exactly. I'm also kind of wondering about the status of Brown. How is this illness? We really haven't heard too much about specifics on it. So just more curious as to how it's going to affect him tonight, if at all. He's obviously cleared. He's playing, and we'll see how much this illness has affected him. But the beauty of this offense is you have Devontae Smith right there, step up and take over the role of lead wide receiver. So if for whatever reason he is, as you said, maybe 50% even, I'll still take 50% A.J. Brown over the schleps that we've had over the last couple of years. So, if that's the case, Smith, interesting to see him step up and be the man tonight.
Mm-hmm. One thing that's really interesting about the Packers defense here, and they're not an elite defense by any means. They're like middle of the pack, but like they're really good on third down. This team gives up the second fewest third down conversions per game in the league. They're eighth best in the league at limiting third down conversions at 34%, and they give up the fifth fewest passing yards per game. So that's really key to really for the offensive line and for Miles Sanders to really cement themselves on that line of scrimmage and get that push that we want to see a little bit better than these last 2 weeks. So I want to see more second and manageable, third and manageable, things like that. Sometimes the Eagles, Shane Steichen kind of gets in his own way. I want to see this offense stop shooting themselves in the foot, get those like 3rd and 2s, and even, God damn it, like even if they have to, like back-to-back quarterback sneaks, why the hell not? Because I'm tired of seeing Boston Scott on short yardage situation. I'm tired of seeing Kenny Gainwell not utilize it in the passing game. They just don't have it. Like Trey Sermon, where you at, bro? Because I would love to see. Talk about creativity on offense. Like I would love to see kind of some more involvement with him. Because why the hell not? That's where we're at right now for the Eagles offense. Joe says, I think another week to work around Goddard with missing. They'll be more diverse this week with the game plan. I would love to see that. And Quinn says, I want to see the tight ends make some plays. We'll see, man. I mean, Jack Stoll, 55 snaps. He's just not.
He's not it.
He's Jack Stoll. He's Jack Stoll.
Right.
So, all right. That basically. Anybody else have any takes on the Eagles offense versus Packers defense before we get into this Packers offense, which we can talk a lot about?
Yeah, I got one more thing to add on that. I think the one thing you have to do tonight is make sure Jair Alexander is not a factor at all for on the offensive side. So I think we'll be okay with that. I think everything that the Eagles are doing. I mean, last week was a very good, solid game. It wasn't like it was like the best game on the TV last week, but you got to have some of those games that you're going to have to win those games with your bare hands. And there was a neck and neck game, but I think the one thing you just have to do is just make sure the Packers defense is not as bad as, just make AJ Brown and Devontae Smith more available when like Jair Alexander and all the others to like make sure it's not a good night for the Eagles offensively.
Love it. What about you, Ryan? Are you good?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say just again to piggyback on that. They do have a decent secondary, so it's going to be certainly a good matchup. And Alexander is by far definitely one of the best corners in the game. Mm-hmm. So it's certainly something to be cautious about. And Rasul Douglas, former Eagle, he's on the other side, and honestly, he's not playing too bad either. So. You have to respect their defensive backfield, and the other last thing is no more Boston Scott. Please get him the hell out of this team. I'm done with him. He's just been hanging around this roster for way too long. We have a guy like Trey Sermon who's young, he's talented. He can come in and absolutely just be a nice compliment to Gainwell and Sanders, and I just don't understand why they're even giving Scott carries at this point.
Yeah, I love it. For sure. Quick little stat here to kind of keep an eye out, and this is actually shocking to me, but the Packers are number one in the NFL. Their defense is number one in the NFL in blitz percentage. And how about this stat from Johnny Page? I love this stat this morning. In the past 3 weeks, Jalen Hurts is 14 of 7. That's an 82% completion percentage with 2 touchdowns and 0 interceptions against 5 rushers. That is incredible. Wow. From weeks 1 to 8, before those 3 games, he was 57% completion percentage with 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. So Jalen Hurts has absolutely answered the question about getting from answering the pressure from opposing defense. That's a crazy number. I didn't know it was that good. That's really, really impressive. All right, let's jump into this Packers offense. It's not your mom and pop's offense here. They're kind of when you talk about shooting themselves in the foot, that's kind of been the Packers offense pretty much the entire season. Giveaways and lack of execution. They have been destroyed by giveaways this year. They've got 8 fumbles, 7 interceptions. They've got a turnover margin of -4. That is 6th worst in the NFL. They've got 15 giveaways. That's literally the worst in the league. And they have the most delay of game penalties on offense this year and 20 drop passes. It's crazy. Like, it's not just like 1 or 2 wide receivers having the majority of the drops. it's across the entire roster with drops, like guys with 4 drops, guys with 3 drops, like everywhere. They've really struggled offensively. And that, I think, starts with the Packers' interior offensive line. They've had so many different offensive line combinations, injuries. They have been crushed. And talk about pressure. Aaron Rodgers has looked human under pressure. So for me, I'm looking at Josh Sweat. I'm looking at Brandon Graham, Hassan Reddick to really attack Aaron Rodgers tonight. Aaron Rodgers is 7th with an under pressure passer rating of 70.5. Of 38 quarterbacks with at least 35 under pressure dropbacks, he ranks 28th in completion percentage, 45%. And in those, he's got 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. So this dude under pressure has really struggled. And it starts with that interior offensive line for the Packers. That's Elgton Jenkins, Josh Myers, and John Runyon. This is a game where Sue, Hargrave, Cox, like a really good bounce back game for Fletcher Cox right here, because we see a lot of Cox and Hargrave on passing situations for Jonathan Gannon. So that's where I'm looking at. The nuts and bolts of this matchup is on that interior defensive line and interior offensive line. I'll throw it to you, Ryan. What's one of your matchups?
Yeah, I mean, you look at this offensive line, and if it wasn't for the fact the name John Runyon's out there, just from harking back to our good Eagles days, and Bakhtiari, they got no names, and I'm really hoping that we can take advantage of that. That's clearly Rodgers has clearly been under a lot of pressure in this season, and that's a big reason. And obviously it's also his lack of trust in his wide receivers, as the other part. So if we could take advantage of the one, I think we can make Rodgers' night a lot worse. And I'm really hoping that we can get after him tonight.
Yeah. It's really interesting because when you dissect why the Packers have struggled so much offensively, there are 5 games this year where the Packers had more passes than rushing attempts. The Packers are 0-5 in those games. In the 2 games where they had more rushing attempts than passing attempts, Rodgers has a 73% completion percentage. 229 yards per game, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 137.1 rating. Like, that makes me nervous, Ryan. Like, that legit makes me worried that there's pieces of this team that are just kind of hibernating. And I'm a little nervous, like a good quarterback like Aaron Rodgers that could come out and kind of expose this Eagles defense, especially if they don't generate pressure, and especially if the Packers are able to and Aaron Jones are able to cement themselves physically on that line of scrimmage and push this Eagles defensive line around. So it's like night and day. If the Packers are able to really sell themselves with the run game and do so efficiently, we might be a little worried. This could be a very close game. What about you, James?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think the one thing I could take out of it too is that even though Rodgers is basically saying without saying is that he needs a wide receiver other than Randall Cobb coming back, and all the other players like Allen Lazard and Christian Watson and so on. But I think the one thing I could take out of this game tonight is that if you put pressure on Rodgers and make him feel uncomfortable like Tennessee did last week, it could be a fun night for them. And I think that's the one thing that the Eagles have to do is that they have to put pressure on Rodgers, especially early on. I mean, they did it last week at the end of the game with Matt Ryan, but I want that to happen more and more. Instead of the bend don't break defense, I want them to put pressure on Aaron Rodgers any way they can.
Yeah, and let's talk about a guy that's really emerging right now. A guy that I was really high on in last year's draft, Christian Watson. This guy, over the last 2 weeks, has 5 touchdowns, last 2 games. You can see the confidence that he's playing with. He's extremely athletic, 6'4", and we kind of talked about this on the Kelly Green Hour last night. Was Darius Slay he's kind of had a couple of off games here for his standards. You can definitely tell that whether that's the addition of what's his name, Josiah Scott, and they're more so they're not reacting as much as they have been in the past, and he's kind of worried about where everyone is at. There's been there's a history for Darius Slay struggling. My point is against bigger wide receivers like a Christian Watson, and then you get to a guy like Lazard, another 6'4" dude, who could potentially play a lot in the slot, and we have seen Josiah Scott kind of get picked on versus the Colts, versus the Commanders several times in that slot area. And they also have Randall Cobb, who lines up in the slot quite a bit. So, like I said, I'm not like ready to jump off a bridge by any means, but I am definitely a little more nervous than probably some other Eagles fans. So that's definitely something. The good news for the Eagles is if you were to look back 3 years ago, Aaron Rodgers was the best in the game when it came to attacking downfield. Just lights out, absolutely dynamic on throws 20 yards or more. This year, the Packers are doing so, and they're doing it quite frequently, but it's been pretty ineffective. You look at Aaron Rodgers this year, he's only got a 37% completion rate on throws on deep attempts this year. That is not good. That is not nearly as good as where he was during those MVP seasons, for sure. Anybody else have any Eagles offense versus Packers defense matchups to watch?
Not really.
No, yeah, I just again to kind of piggyback. I mean, we are going against Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he literally is coming off of 2 MVP seasons, and you still see that MVP in him at times. You're not seeing it as consistent from game to game, even within the game. But, again, that is something that you can't just take lightly. You can't just be like, oh, well, Aaron Rodgers isn't Aaron Rodgers. We should roll this game. Listen, if Rodgers decides he wants to just all of a sudden, be Aaron Rodgers, we could be in for a tough night. So I'm just, I'm cautiously optimistic that if we can put some pressure on him, and I think the rest will kind of take care of itself. But we still got to get home,
Yeah. Before we get into this comment, Ken, thank you for the comment. The last thing to kind of note about this Packers, I have the banner wrong. There it is. About the Packers offense here is that they utilize their running backs heavily behind the line of scrimmage. That's something that Eagles linebackers TJ Edwards, Kaiser White have to be really on top of this. They have had a lot of drops in this area, but this is a team that will utilize them in screens and quick passes right in that area. So, I mean, it's more so not been effective. Aaron Jones' average depth of target is negative 1.4 yards. That is the shortest among running backs. A.J. Dillon has 4 drops this year. His receiving yards and touches as a receiver are definitely really bad. Aaron Jones, 27 of his receptions of his 36 targets have come behind the line of scrimmage. So it's wild. So as much as they like to attack downfield, they also like to kind of get the ball out fast. So Eagles linebackers absolutely need to be prepared for that. So Ken says, any truth to the Gronk rumor? They really need a tight end. Anybody have thoughts on Gronk to the Birds?
I think it's an obvious, easy, connection for Birds fans to make. If you're looking at the free agent tight end landscape, I mean, you literally have Gronk, who's retired. You have Cook, who's essentially retired. You have Jimmy Graham, who's essentially retired. And so on and so on and so on. So basically you have 34, 35, 36-year-old broken down tight ends that are available for a reason. And listen, is Gronk or Cook or Graham an upgrade over Stahl or Calcaterra offensively? Sure. Is Howie going to make that move? I don't see it at all. It would be a fun little story. We got Gronk, yada, 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 but I don't see it happening at all. we'll weather the storm. We'll get Goddard back. We'll be fine.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm right there with you, man.
All right. Joe says, I think the biggest factor for the Eagles offense is ball security. Do not turn the ball over, and we win this game 100,000%. That's been kind of arguably the most impressive thing about Jalen Hurts is his ability to avoid turnovers. And they've done so. But last week you had, I think, what was it? A.J. Brown with the fumble after the catch. Things like that. Like they need to stop that if they want to make themselves an elite offense. All right, let's get into our next area, and that is player of the game predictions. Lead us off, James. Who's your player of the game?
Whew. I mean, I can't. I mean, it's kind of hard to say that Jalen Hurts should be your player of the game for the second straight week, but I got to go with the hot hand. It's like he's been really dominant. I mean, last week was just a real fantastic win for him. I think that's the one thing I took out of it. And I mean, like the ball's in his court now. I got to go with the hot hand. I got to go with Jalen Hurts.
Love it. What about you, Ryan?
I mean, certainly that's a smart choice. So I'll go elsewhere, and I'll actually go Miles Sanders.
Yeah.
I think Miles Sanders is going to have a good rushing day. He's going to get about 90 to 100 yards. He'll get in the end zone, and he'll even catch a few balls for, I don't know, maybe 30 yards. So I'm expecting a nice day from him. And yeah, let's go. Miles Sanders, baby.
All right, Miles Sanders was also my pick, so I will. I'm going to say the Eagles' offensive line. Let's go the Eagles' offensive line because I really want to see them, especially just turn out this run game for this week against the Packers. You look at last week; they didn't give up a single. I think they gave up one pressure last week, which is insane. So for me, I'm going to go Jeff Stoutland and the Eagles offensive line for player of the game. Quinn says Gardner Johnson will have another diving interception. Let's go.
Nice. Well, let's be smart about this. We really don't want him getting too many more interceptions because he's just gonna price himself out of the Eagles, man. We want to keep him. So settle down there, Gardner Johnson. You did enough. Just handle your business, Let somebody else get an interception.
Let's get into X factor of the game. That is like the underrated player of the game award. I'll lead us off. I think it's pretty obvious. For me, it's Sue and Joseph. I think those two, if you could replicate exactly what we saw in week 11 here against the Packers, we're going to be in really good shape, especially in that second half. Those two were absolutely dominant in that second half. I think when Joseph or Sue were in the game, especially in the second half, the Colts only averaged 2.8 yards per carry. They absolutely shut them down. Those are Jordan Davis-like numbers. So for me, I'm going to go the tandem of Sue and Joseph for my X factor. Ryan, what's yours?
Yeah, listen, I'll take a replication of their first game. So yeah, if that happens, I'm super, super happy. I'm gonna actually say TJ Edwards.
Right.
I think it's going to be super important. As you mentioned, the way that the Packers like to run their offense, those linebackers are going to need to be able to get behind the line of scrimmage and attack those screens, those quick plays. And I'm hoping that we're seeing about 2 to 3 tackles for loss for Edwards, and who knows, maybe another sack would be nice.
What
about you, James? Who's your underrated player of the game?
I got to go with Big Boy Slay. I think he's looking for somebody to. I mean, even during the week, he said in the press conference, he said, "I want to pick off Aaron Rodgers," and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I would love to see that. I mean. That's what I got to say. I got to go with Big Boy Slay with the INTs.
I like that call a lot. I'm going to go – I want to throw a quick nod to Jonathan Gannon out there. I do. The guy gets hated on way too much, and he's not the problem. And especially the run blitzing. I want to see more of that. That was extremely effective. last week against the Colts, especially in that second half. That's the thing is like when the Eagles do blitz, they're really effective. And if you look at the numbers, like they're now like middle of the pack when it comes to blitz percentage, which I'm pretty sure they're way down, further down on the list. They don't normally blitz a lot, but when they do, it's extremely efficient. Whether it's TJ Edwards or anyone else coming off the edge, a defensive back or whatever. So Jonathan Gannon, I'm really curious to see how he matches up against Aaron Rodgers in this one. Because there are times over the last few weeks when I kept thinking to myself, what would Gannon look like against a great quarterback right now? Because there are times when it was not so good. So anyway, that's just my quick 2 cents. Let's roll on to score predictions. Go ahead, James. What is your score prediction?
Well, I mean, I know yesterday I was like a little bit anxious about this game. I was like saying to myself, I mean, it's going to be kind of close. I said it might come down to a field goal or so. But I gotta say, I think if we get Rodgers like uncomfortable, I think it's going to be a fun night for the Eagles. So I gotta go with 31-17 Birds.
Nice. Love it. What about you, Ryan?
Okay. Well, I had in my head 31-21 for pretty much the same thing. I think the Eagles are going to be able to get some points on the board. And listen, the Packers are certainly going to get theirs. I just think we pull out, whether it's closer than the score indicates or not. But I still think we end up winning by double digits. So.
Yeah, I'm like the opposite of that side, man.
Oh,
all right, I've got an Eagles W 27-23, but I'm like of the frame of mind like they need to show me. Yeah, Ken, I also have them winning by 4 points. I think this is gonna be a close game. Like the way they've played these last 2 weeks, they're out of sync. They're missing their arguably the best tight end in football right now. I need to see it to believe it. So I can't say a double-digit win. I'm going to go 27-23, and I think this is going to be a tough game. Even Quentin says it's a 3-point game. Oh, my gosh.
I definitely think it's going to be closer than the score indicates, but, maybe a late touchdown, late field goal, something like that. I definitely think it's going to be some back and forth and probably a one-score game, into the fourth quarter. And just, again, hopefully kind of a late score to kind of close it out.
I think it's so critical for the Eagles to be on the same page out the jump. Like this Green Bay Packers team is back against the wall. They're cornered. Like they have to win. Like if Green Bay doesn't win this game, like does Aaron Rodgers finish out the season? Like that's where they're at. If they're 4-8, that pretty much closes the book on the season. So. That's why I'm a little nervous because, like, I could easily see Aaron Rodgers going bang, 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 go right down the field in the first quarter. So Jonathan Gannon, man, I think it is so important to kind of make a statement, blitz early or disguise a blitz or do something creative to kind of keep to get pressure, like James said earlier. All right, so that basically wraps up this show. We'll wrap it up. Lastly, with final thoughts and plugs, lead us off, Ryan. Time is yours.
Final thought. Again, I think we need to not take this team lightly. We've certainly seen them not play great, but we have seen them, put a hurting on some teams too. Because again, it is still Aaron Rodgers. I don't care if he's, smoking peyote or ayahuasca or whatever the heck he's doing. He's still the man. He's still one of the great quarterbacks that this league has ever seen. So we have to respect that. So let's not be too confident. Again, I'm cautiously optimistic about tonight. So, that's I guess my final thoughts. You can find me pretty much everywhere on social media. Facebook's probably the easiest thing. Just type in Philly Sports Alliance, put on your automatic notifications. You'll get all of our live shows, which includes all of the which way am I pointing here? All of the TPL shows that go live as well. They're coming through, so put on those notifications and get yourself caught up We're also on Twitter at Philly Sports PSA down here, and that's about it. Follow us for daily shows.
Philly Sports Alliance. Go check them out. Couldn't nicest people ever, minus Ryan.
Yeah, of course. Such an a-hole.
Joe says before you go, gotta give a shout out to Big Balls Doug Peterson.
Right?
For a 2-point conversion down 1 seconds, man. That was a great win for Doug.
That was a great
win. Did
win.
you see him smile while walking to the middle of the field after that W? That was great to see.
Yeah.
It was really good to see.
Yeah.
Good for Doug Peterson.
Good for him.
Yeah. All right, James. Time's yours, man. Final thoughts.
Well, I gotta say that the Eagles, just do exactly like you did for the last 9 weeks. Just like go out, have fun, have like the best time in the world. I mean, last week when Jalen Hurts won the game for him, I want to see. Hopefully we won't have to deal with that sweat throughout the rest of the game. But I mean, I would like to see a little bit more bittersweet game this week. But I just like I said, just have fun, go, enjoy it. I mean, you're one step away from clinching the conference, clinching the first round bye. Obviously the first seed in the NFC. But you can also find me on every Saturday morning on Patterson Avenue Fanatics, 9 a.m. here on the Edge of Philly Sports Network. And let's get it, guys. Let's go, Birds.
Absolutely love it. Go Birds as well. My final thoughts is just I want to see the Eagles not shoot themselves in the foot, especially offensively. Get A.J. Brown back in the game. This is a team that has done so well this year, especially attacking downfield. I want to see more of that. Might not happen tonight, but really the offense boils down to Jalen Hurts and him continuously taking those next steps to that massive contract extension, which will happen. That is absolutely going down. Just like I said earlier, this Green Bay Packers team has they're a heavy blitz defense, but you look at what are we doing here? All right, that does not bode well for the Eagles' success tonight. But anyway.
Well, it's a blackout, so I guess
right. It is the blackout. That's a great sign. That is a great sign.
Right?
Nailed it, James. That was hilarious.
Oh, it's good.
But anyway, I look at Jalen Hurts' ability to take those next steps. Last week against the Colts, even though he was indecisive at times, he held on the ball for too long at times. I thought he was sensational. He had 8 rushing first downs. Really took the offense on his back. I want to see less of that this week. Like there's too many weapons on this team, even though they don't have Dallas Goedert, Quez Watkins, A.J. Brown, Devontae. Like this offense, as long as they don't shoot themselves in the foot, they should be 100% okay. So that wraps up tonight's show. We will be having halftime live as well as post-game live right when the end of the first half and right when the game clock hits 0 for post-game. I will not be doing those shows. I will be watching Doc Rivers and the Philadelphia 76ers tonight here starting in 15 minutes. So if you love the Sixers, we will be doing a new a post-game show as well and with a new co-host tonight. Really excited to have him on for the first time ever. He is a Sixers beat writer for another website and just the nicest guy. And I'm really excited to have him on the show to break it down. What else? Party on Broad will be tomorrow night where we break down the Sixers as well. I've dropped 3 NFL draft player rankings on, I think, the biggest positions of need, which is edge rusher, interior defensive line, and cornerback. My running back one is done. I just need to put it together. The running back class in this draft is outstanding. So you look at the Eagles running back situation, is not pretty, especially with Miles Sanders on his way out, and he will be on his way out. But the good news is tons of day 2 guys that will be there for the Eagles. The guy that I will throw out there, and if you haven't heard of him already, Zach Charbonnet out of UCLA, 6'2", 200+ pounds, short yardage back, would absolutely look terrific in Eagles Green Bay.
I couldn't agree more. I actually somebody told me about him like a couple weeks ago, and I've watched a few UCLA games because of that. And yeah, I'm in. I'm in.
He's,
I like him
he's
a
a
lot.
beast. Yeah,
Yeah.
like if we'll be doing a lot of Eagles mock drafts and stuff for the foreseeable future, and you can be sure to see that guy on day 2 to the Philadelphia Eagles for sure, because I think they have like 4 top 100 picks at least right now. So again, thank you everyone for watching. Please be sure to check out Philly Sports Alliance, my man Ryan, Facebook, Twitter, you name it, Edge of Philly Sports, EOPsports.com. My guys here, James and Ryan, amazing content creators. If you love Philly sports, please go check them out, share the love. And again, if you're watching, wherever you're watching, please be sure to hit that like button, subscribe. Thank you to everyone who commented tonight. We had a lot of great comments tonight as usual. So that basically wraps it up for Ryan, for James, for myself. Stay awesome, guys. Go Birds. We'll see you at halftime.
The Birds.